Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you this morning. Had a little bit of trouble getting started. It's really funny how this live video works. But let's begin today with a breath exercise to get ourselves focused, to bring us into the present moment. And the breath exercise starts with taking one breath in through the nose, holding it, and then releasing it through the mouth. In through the nose, hold, release. Continue. In through the nose, release through the mouth. Open your eyes if they're closed. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Thanks for being here this morning. It's a wonderful day. My studio is right here in our kitchen, here in Gloucester, Virginia, coastal Virginia. And so I have a microphone that's hooked to some headsets, and I question whether to use it or not. But when I was getting ready to begin today, I could hear the roosters crowing in the background, and I knew that if I put the microphone in, that if the roosters continue to crow, they wouldn't come through the presentation, and I think they sound nice. So I didn't put the microphone in, which means my beautiful wife Debbie has to be quiet, or leave the front door and go sit on the porch or something like that. So that's just a moment to get y'all present to where I am. I hope your day is wonderful, that you're having the opportunity to breathe consciously, that you're having the opportunity to choose who you are today. And so frequently, cancel that. So on Monday, when we started again, what was coming through was a conversation about our spiritual beingness. And from that spiritual beingness point of view, we get to look at that, each of us being a single drop of the total spectrum of what we refer to as God, some of us, or goddess, or all that is, or whatever it is, or however it is you choose to present that. We are here doing that, and we are eternal. We are from everything to everything all the time. And so, being the presence of God wherever I am allows for the understanding that in the realm of all that is, there is no coincidence. Everything is on purpose. And the reality that Paul, the manifestation of God, known as Paul, is manifest in this three-dimensional plane where choice and free will are the pivotal point, allows us to realize that the presence of God as Paul chose to be here on the planet Earth, chose to incarnate into this three-dimensional state of consciousness, chose to exist in a physical form in a place where free will is the operating status. Nothing happens in this three-dimensional plane by coincidence. And the point of choosing to be here in this three-dimensional plane is to realize for all that is God's self, to realize through the presence of God's self as Paul, that choice is functioning in every existing moment. Every existing moment, choice is operational. It is not only operational here in this three-dimensional plane, it is operational across the entire spectrum of all that is. Yet, until we have the opportunity to be in a place where each and every choice impacts this single presentation of God wherever it is, the understanding of God's self, that the manifestation of God's self is a chosen existence by the God self. Now I realize that that sounds a little bit piled up on itself, if you will. But the reality is it's very, very, very simple. There are no mistakes anywhere in the whole of creation. There are no mistakes. Nothing, anywhere, at any time, in any dimension, on any planet, happens by coincidence. It's all planned in the moment because there's only the moment. Past and future exist only in the three-dimensional plane with time on a linear experience. Knowing all of that is something that intrigues this particular presence of God. I embrace joy in being able to say that to you, my fellow presentations of God wherever I am, and to myself. Yet, the knowing of that doesn't matter, except to me. And knowing that it doesn't matter except to me is the point of this whole three-dimensional experience. The presence of God, desiring to experience God's self in all ways, manifest creation as we perceive it on purpose. Divided God's self, God divided God's self, God set out little segments of God's self so that God could experience all that God created. And this brings us to knowing it or not knowing it, being able to articulate what I just articulated, or not being able to articulate it, makes no real difference. What does make a difference is that one comes to the understanding that creation, all that is, and it is harmony, joy, freedom, what we as human beings call relaxation, separate and distinct from sitting on a deck drinking Mai Tais, but the state of being relaxed, the state of being minus anxiety, the state of being minus fear, the state of simply being at rest. So we talk about God, goddess, all that is, and we refer to many, 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 many expressions that show up for us human beings as God in manifest. We say God is love. John Lennon wrote a song about love. Love is the point of many, 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 at least half, if not more, of every single solitary poem that was ever written, song that was ever written, bit of prose that was ever written. You know, the fundamental template for a good movie is boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl. And in each case, that's a story expressing the manifestation of what's called love. But what love, in fact, shows up like is all that is all that is. Many of us see a beautiful day where the sun is shining and there's a light breeze. The temperature is about 78 degrees Fahrenheit. The birds are chirping. There's no excess noise. As a beautiful day. And in that can say, ah, the presence of God. This is love. This is the manifestation of love. This is God loving me by giving me this perfect day to simply sit here and be with zero anxiety, with zero concern, what some might call a serene moment or serenity. Yet there are others of us, presences of God wherever we are, who can sit on the same porch in the building of a thunderstorm and see the shades of deep purple and deep blue and deep gray in the sky and the clouds and hear the rumbling of the thunder and feel the presence of the wind and experience a sense of true and total exhilaration and find that to be the presence of God as well. Love. We see someone that we know really well that brings us joy. We call that love. We see a mother with her newborn child, holding the child in her arms, calming the child's concerns and fears, bringing the child from crying and battling to peace and calm. And we call that love. In fact, every single solitary experience that's available to us on this three-dimensional planet at any time in any condition is love. God is love. Anything that happens is of God. We have chosen to say that certain things that happen are of God and certain things that happen are not of God relative to our own conditioning. But the fact is, there is only God. And when we refer to God as love, then everything is God, and whatever shows up is God's love, or is simply love. The conditions that exist, that function in each of us until we choose to set them aside and to get past them, are man-made. This is love, this is not love. Those are dualistic experiences that is part of the three-dimensional plane, but is the creation of the illusion known as separation from God. In reality, it's our opportunity in what we create to realize the overwhelming omnipresence of ourselves as the presence of God wherever we are. In every single manifestation that these five senses, sight, sound, smell, hearing, feeling, each and every one of those, regardless of how we say they look are manifestations of all that is and are love. That which we know as fear, the quote, end quote, opposite of love. So if God is love, then the opposite of love is evil. Therein lies the duplicity of good and bad. It's made up by man. There is no duplicity. Everything in this three-dimensional plane was created in this three-dimensional plane to give you and I, the chosen presences of God. We choose it. We choose to manifest here. We choose to come here to simply be in a place where we can choose to see everything as the presence of my spiritual self, God. There is absolutely no way to act out of emotion or intellect alone on motivation from the fear within and call that godly. It is manly or humanly. This is free will manifest. I can choose to operate in a situation and in a state of being that allows for balance and calm, or I can choose to operate in a state of confusion. And that's the point of this three-dimensional plane, to choose to be the presence of God wherever I am. I acknowledge each and every one of you as the presence of God wherever you are. I acknowledge each and every one of you as courageous for choosing to come to this place to realize God self. I admire each and every one of you for choosing this journey with me. I acknowledge you as the presence of God wherever you are. Namaste. Namaste.